Sometimes you got a bass player who does the thing. And sometimes you gotta do the thing yourself. In jazz swing tunes, bass players usually play something called a walking bass line, which consists mostly of consecutive quarter notes outlining chord arpeggios or scales. When there is no bass player, in solo piano playing for example, or piano vocal duets, it is a common option to play walking bass on the piano. The basic idea of how to construct such bass lines is the same on both instruments. Here is a step-by-step process that you can use to build them. Step 1 is to play the root whenever the progression moves to a new chord. What to do next depends on the duration of the chord. If a chord lasts for only 2 beats, building the bass line is very easy. First, play the root on beat 1, and on a second beat you can play the root again, in the same or a different octave. Repeating the root in walking bass lines is okay as long as you don't overuse it. Alternatively, you can play the fifth as the second note. Or you can approach the root of the following chord by step, either diatonic or chromatic. The second and third options can overlap. The fifth of the first chord will often be a step away from the root of the second chord. If a chord lasts for a whole measure, there are 5 basic techniques I use. Number 1. Play the root on the first beat of the bar, the fifth on beat 2, and the root again on beat 3. Then play an approach note leading into the next chord root. Number 2. Play the root on the first beat of the bar. On beat 2, you play a neighbor tone that is 1 diatonic or chromatic step away from the root, and then the root again on beat 3. Then play an approach note leading into the next chord root. Number 3. Play the root on beat 1 and the fifth on beat 3. Then play a chord tone or approach note to connect the root and the fifth, and a chord tone or approach note to connect the fifth to the root of the next chord. Number 4. Play the root on beat 1 and the third on beat 3. Then play a chord tone or approach note to connect the root and the third, and a chord tone or approach note to connect the third to the root of the next chord. And number 5. Play the root on beat 1 and then play a series of diatonic and/or chromatic steps to connect it to the root of the next chord. If a chord lasts for more than one measure, there are 2 basic options. Number 1. Play the root on the first beat of measure 1 and the first beat of measure 2 and the first beat of measure 3 and so on. Then use the techniques presented above to connect the 2 notes. Number 2. Play the root on the first beat of measures 1, 3, 5 and so on, and the fifth on the first beat of measures 2, 4, 6 and so on. Then use the techniques presented above to connect the two notes. All the lines I've talked about so far only contained consistent quarter notes. And that is what bass players do most of the time when they play walking bass. But I also want to mention a couple of very common rhythmic variations that can break up the predictability of these lines a little bit. First, you can use the occasional eighth note rhythm, like this. And secondly, you can do a similar thing with eighth note triplets, like this. There are of course many more melodic possibilities when building walking bass lines, but the ones presented in this video will give you a strong foundation and will work with any jazz progression. To demonstrate, I'm gonna play one chorus of the jazz standard The Days of Wine and Roses, with the right hand playing one-hand voicings and the left hand playing a walking bass line. And that's it for today. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love.